Once upon a time, in a little town in Ayetoro, lived a young girl named Adeola. Her mother died not long after giving birth to her, and before she turned 10, she had lost two of her stepmothers, making her father an outcast in the entire village. Young women feared him because getting close meant they might die too. Although everyone avoided them, her father promised to care for her no matter what happened in the village. At 15, Adeola became an orphan. She believed that was all life had in store for her after losing her father. Adeola was sent to live with a woman who was very well known in the village for her business acumen and also ownership of a yam flour business. The woman made Adeola's life miserable for the first 6 days, but on the 7th day, she slumped and died. This had become a pattern for women who get close to Adeola. It was the same way that Adeola's stepmothers died in their marriage to her father and lived with them for the first 6 days before they died on the 7th. It was also similar to her mother's death. She died on the 7th day after her delivery. The villagers finally connected the dots on who Adeola was based on their beliefs. They called her the Evil One. They convened a meeting and summoned the chief priest, who told them that Adeola was from the underworld. In Ayetoro village, surrounded by water, the underworld represented both good and evil. The water spirits represented good, and the forests harbored evil spirits. The river was a dangerous place and not a place for just anyone who wanted to swim, but for those who had perfected the art of swimming. It took a specific rank in the village to swim in some parts. There were hours when no one were meant to be close to the river, at noon and at midnight. A few natives drowned when they ventured into the deeper parts and couldn't swim through. The villagers believed that water had no business taking anyone's life since it was a source of survival. But since it did, it was both good and evil. For decades and centuries, the water served as a symbol of the village god. The titled men and older women offered sacrifices to the river goddess depending on what the chief priest told them about the river's mood. When the villagers summoned the chief priest, he informed them that Adeola had been banished from the water kingdom for disrespecting the queen and wanting to take over their world. However, what he told the villagers was a half-truth. The truth was that a wandering spirit had taken over Adeola's body, but he wasn't ready to ward off the spirit. In Ayetoro town, the banished spirits were meant to be in the evil forest and not harmful to humans, except when the native trespassed into the evil forest. This was because the water spirits protected the locals from the evil of the forest spirits. However, one fateful afternoon, Adeola's mother had trespassed while heavily pregnant. And when the banished water spirits left for the evil forest, he met her on the way. She was by the path, struggling and trying to gather her firewood in the forest, even though the time when she was meant to be there had passed. She looked tired and almost due for delivery, so the banished spirit was able to easily take possession of Adeola's flesh. The king requested that Adeola be banished into the evil forest for taking the lives of women who came close to her. Adeola also felt like there was no need for her to stay in the village. Everyone avoided her, and she had been made an outcast. While Adeola's flesh had come of age, the water spirits remained inside her. The evil spirits knew Adeola was in danger, but the spirits didn't equally care. The spirit was excited about the journey into the land of the spirits as they sojourned that morning. The king's guard abandoned Adeola on a path that led to the evil forest. It was some minutes before noon. Her flesh feared, but the spirits became a source of motivation for her as she continued moving. After an hour's journey, she stopped at a place known as the Point of No Return, showing a distinction between the spirits and the human world. The spirits believed it had done enough, and it was time to join its kind in the forest. The evil spirits had made its way out of her body, and Adeola felt her metabolism slow down. She was tired and decided to move close to the big, wide tree and lay in front of it. She slept for many hours before darkness came and enveloped the surrounding. The mosquitoes awoke her. The whole place had calmed, and it had gone as dark as possible. Adeola felt a spirit of uncanniness. She knew that something was amiss. She noticed a flashlight moving through a tiny path leading to a place that resembled a village square and a bit of human presence. Adeola moved towards the flashlight, which clipped her tight. She wasn't aware of where she was going, but she continued in the light's embrace. The journey felt unending, but she continued as slowly the light flash began fading and the day was restored. She stopped in a place. It was a totally deserted place with a significant hut, but had houses at the far end. The day had become clear. Adeola was tired and overwhelmed with hunger. She moved to the hut and entered, but it was empty. At the other end, she met a clay pot of food. Then, she began contemplating whether to eat or not. Feeling exhausted, she stopped and fell to the ground immediately. A young woman walked into the hut and noticed someone's presence. It was Adeola. She sensed that Adeola was a harmless, homeless woman. She bent down and grabbed her, then noticed that Adeola was exhausted. She lifted, fed, and offered her water. She introduced herself as Taiwo. While Adeola felt rejuvenated, she also felt different. Taiwo was presented as a woman, but had a male-sounding voice. But Taiwo was simply a shapeshifter who moved through two genders without control of themselves. She could change to both male and female, known as Kehinde and Taiwo, depending on what their protectors thought of them at that moment. Taiwo welcomed Adeola into a Lubo village. Taiwo lived there alone, and while they stayed together, she could read Adeola's mind and every one of her moves. They knew that Adeola had found safety in their little hut. Taiwo explained to Adeola that she lived alone on the outskirts after being removed from her main village. Before she was born, the midwives knew she would be a twin. But when she emerged from her mother's womb, she came out as only one, not as a conjoined twin, but as a girl child. Kehinde lived inside Taiwo as a spirit rather than flesh. When their villagers discovered she wasn't a normal child and wanted to kill her, her mother pretended to take her to the river and drown her, but hid her in an abandoned hut on the village's outskirts. No one knew of the place. She would come on different days to take care of her before Taiwo grew of age and her mother died. Taiwo explained to Adeola that she should remain calm. She could shapeshift into a man and had no control over it. Adeola was excited about this idea. She had always been receptive to ideas. Nothing would scare her after what she went through in Ayetoro village and her journey through the forests. As they lived together, Adeola was gobsmacked the day Taiwo shapeshifted into a man. She hadn't seen a man as handsome as Kehinde, Taiwo's male form. Taiwo's male figure fascinated her, and she fell in love at first sight. His male look contrasted with his female look. Even when Taiwo shapeshifted into a woman, Adeola remained engrossed in Taiwo. She wanted both forms, whether Taiwo or Kehinde. Days and years passed and they got married and lived in the hut Taiwo's mother had provided when she was little. Years passed after they got married and Adeola couldn't get pregnant. They had sexual intercourse whenever Taiwo transformed into Kehinde, as well as when they are Taiwo, but nothing happened. Adeola couldn't get pregnant. All the years, the part of the outskirts where they lived had grown, but with settlers. The villagers weren't aware of Taiwo's duality. They knew Kehinde and knew he was married to Adeola. They saw Taiwo as Adeola's friend, and they all lived together. The villagers didn't know their origin and didn't care. They knew they came from a path where visitors entered their community and became one of them. They saw them as settlers. While Taiwo and Kehinde didn't care about the child, Adeola wanted to know why. She wanted a child and would do anything to have one. She decided to visit a powerful village herbalist to understand what was happening to her. There, the herbalist told her about her culture, where she was banished, and how her husband didn't observe the culture. To become pregnant, her husband would have to step foot in her village before the gods saw him as her husband, allowing her to conceive. Only then would Kehinde become her husband and wife. Adeola became worried. She didn't know how to return to her village. She came home and met Kehinde, explaining how her day had gone. Kehinde became more mature and of age, able to control his body unlike before. Now he could transform himself and take the flesh he wanted. Adeola wanted both Kehinde and Taiwo so they would sleep together no matter what flesh he had taken. Before they left Elubo village, Adeola asked Kehinde which flesh he was taking, and he said it was the female form. He understood that the spirits and female flesh could survive the rigorous paths of the evil forest. They would walk through the forest for 7 days and nights. On the day Adeola came to Elubo village, the light was a spirit that transported Adeola to the village. Taking only the night to get to Elubo village before the darkness disappeared, it made everything simpler. They prepared as they walked and slept in the forest through the moving and talking trees and animals that tried to startle them but calmed immediately upon seeing Taiwo's face. Adeola feared for her life, but she was determined to get that one thing that would make her laugh. Soon they arrived in the village and made their first stop at the king's palace. The men and women were shocked to see Adeola return to the town many years later. No one goes into the evil forest and returns. Adeola had come back with a woman they didn't know. Soon, the villagers learned they were a couple. Taiwo began interchanging her flesh with Kehinde on different days, and soon the villagers learned that Taiwo wasn't an ordinary person. Taiwo and Kehinde reminded them of their supreme god, Olodumare. As days went by in the village, Taiwo and Adeola had 3 children. People began coming to the village to be healed by supernatural powers possessed by the spirits they called Olodumare. Even those from the remote village of Elubo had to pass through the evil forest known as Forest of Death. It dawned on the Elubo people that it was Taiwo and Kehinde they knew in their village, but didn't know where they came from. The spirit twins didn't reveal their origins. The kinsmen of Elubo village summoned themselves and regretted not realizing the power they had. They also discussed how they lost him forever. Taiwo and Kehinde didn't care about disclosing their identity to people in their community. They wanted people who accepted them wholeheartedly. When they returned to Ayetoro village, the community apologized to Adeola, accepted them, and gave them the finest houses. Even when they noticed Taiwo and Kehinde interchanging personas, they accepted them as their Olodumare who protected Adeola for being innocent. Moral of the story: the one who is said to be rejected stone can end up being the cornerstone. Regardless of what happens to you, it doesn't matter. Your destiny is ahead, waiting for you. It is good to apologize when you realize you are wrong and have wronged someone, no matter how the situation seems like you are right. Remember that your protector is always there for you. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, share, and comment. Sharing the video notifies YouTube that we are gaining traction. Liking the video shows that you enjoyed it, and commenting helps us gain more visibility to tell more stories.